Welcome! We are so happy you're here, and welcome to the 2013-2014 school year. You are in the ELAR content presentation, and my name is Debbie Jones. Let's get started. You may have met some faces in our curriculum department. We have some new faces. I hope when you're thinking of these wonderful women that these images are not the ones that come to mind. We are not a scary bunch. And I hope you'll take the opportunity, if you have not had the opportunity, to get to know each and every one of us this year. Let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Debbie Jones. You can reach me at debbie.jones@birdvilleschools.net. My office extension number is 5680. Take a step into my world. Here I am at 5, at 17, at 22, and just recently this summer. My husband and I have been married for 32 years. We just recently dropped our youngest daughter off at college, so we were officially empty nesters. Woohoo! Well, I hope that was convincing. We are still getting used to those same ideas. I would like to talk to you for just a brief moment about myself, my philosophy, and the reason why I do this work that I do. Understanding this art of learning to read is my passion. Providing access to this skill of reading for every child is my conviction. Ensuring that every child has the opportunity and the support to become a lifelong reader is really my mission here. It is a journey in which I hope and pray that you will become my professional partner. If we really think about that word literacy, and if we were to turn to the dictionary, we might find some of the following. Literate, literacy. March with letters. Letters, literature. Two definitions are provided. Able to read and write, versed in literature or creative writing, having knowledge or competence. This dictionary source also provides an entry for a variety of literacies. The Literacy Development Council defines this term in the following. Literacy not only involves competency in reading and writing, but goes beyond this to include the critical and effective use of these in people's lives. The use of language, oral and written, for all purposes. This definition involves critical thinking about what one reads, as well as expanding the term to encompass oral forms of literacy. The Workforce Investment Act of 1998 defines literacy as an individual's ability to read, write, and speak, compute and solve problems at levels of proficiency necessary to function on the job, in the family of the individual, and in society. This is a much broader view of literacy than an individual's ability just to read. So, why has a literacy framework been developed for BISD? BISD has a commitment to ensure that every student graduates ready for college, career, and life. The foundation of that ambitious goal is an assurance that every student develop proficient literacy skills. Ensuring comprehensive literacy for all students requires powerful instructional strategies, rigorous and engaging assignments, and high expectations for students' work. Every teacher in BISD is responsible for building the students' literacy skills, and every teacher must take advantage of every opportunity to prepare our students for college, career, and life. This document, this framework, will serve as a foundational guide to Tier 1 instruction. And that's today's focus, Tier 1 instruction in the reading classroom. Recently, on a consortium on reading excellence, this statement was provided. Designing, implementing, and sustaining an effective reading program is everybody's business. It requires well-designed and ongoing professional development to equip educators with the knowledge base they need for effective reading instruction. It requires the selection of appropriate tools that are tightly linked to research. And finally, it requires support systems initiated by local leadership to ensure smooth implementations and enduring effects. I think this statement really solidifies the work we're doing here in Bergville ISD. Designing and implementing an effective reading program is at the heart of this framework. It requires well-designed and ongoing professional development. That piece we have begun to offer all teachers in the elementary classroom this summer by providing the literacy academies, the piece called A Guide to Unlocking the Mystery of Guided Reading, and the Norma Jackson work on the developmental rubric of teaching writing. The support systems is created through the women and men put into place through the various departments of the school district. Looking at the curriculum department specifically, Dr. Clark and Dr. Brown have ensured that you have a support system in place. A reading coach has been provided for each of the clusters across the district to really support instruction and providing those tools and models to help move our instruction to a more rigorous level. Every campus has been equipped with one interventionist to really support the Tier 2 and Tier 3 placement across our district. But let's really, for just a moment, focus on that idea of Tier 1 instruction. What is Tier 1 instruction? If you would turn to your neighbor and have a brief conversation, we'll go for 1 minute and 20 seconds. Presenters, if you will please pause, please turn to your neighbor and talk about your idea and your belief systems about Tier 1 instruction. Presenters, mark your timer. Go. Presenters, if you will get the attention back of our audience. I'd really like to hear from some of the people in the audience. Presenters, if you'll select several of the participants to popcorn out and talk about their ideas of Tier 1 instruction. Thank you for sharing. Let's move on. BISD headlines. Recently on our website, we saw two of the headlines as you see posted here. Dr. Brown had this to say: I am proud that the district and every campus met standard under the new state's guidelines and more rigorous testing system. This is a reflection of the hard work of our students and the staff this past year. Congratulations to the students, staff, and community. When we reflect on this headline, it really summarizes the work that has gone on in 2012 and 2013 in our district. I challenge you to move us to a new foundational guidelines in which the headlines might read a little differently. Thinking of headlines, I want to share with you a new piece that the curriculum department is and will be presenting to you today. It's called Making Thinking Visible. One of our commitments is to continually provide you strategies, structures, and activities to move that thinking to a new rigorous point. I'm going to share two activities with you today as we go through this presentation, and one of them is actually called Headlines. The other one is called What Makes You Say That? Throughout the presentations today, you will be hearing about several others. Think, Puzzle, Explore, the explanation game, I used to think, now I think, and again, what makes you say that? So we're going to work with these today as we go through. So if you were to brainstorm headlines that you might be hearing at the end of 2013 13, 14, and really thinking about taking an opportunity to synthesize and organize your thinking, here is a strategy that you might be using in your classroom this year. It would look like this, and we're going to model this for you as we go through this presentation. Ask students to think about what they've been learning. Say, write a headline for that topic that captures the core ideas you want to remember. Students share their headlines and reasoning as appropriate for the age of that student. Create a class collection of headlines that documents the group's thinking. So today, as we go through this presentation, I want you to jot down some headlines about your thoughts and your summations of all the information that you'll be hearing today. Here's a headline that I'd like to share. Great things are happening in BISD. Let's start here. This is a question that often the curriculum coordinators are asked to respond to. What are the non-negotiables? What are the non-negotiables in all the content areas, and specifically, what are the non-negotiables in reading language arts, in Spanish language arts? We're going to begin by the first non-negotiable, the text, or TEKS, depending on your frame of reference. This is mandated by state law that you must teach the text from grades K through English 4. The text by law really represents the body of work that each student at each grade level is responsible for mastering. When we really think about the text, often we think about a bar that my students made it. But this year, as we move through these presentations and we really begin to study the text in our PLCs, I really want you to think about the text as being the floor, not the ceiling for achievement in each of these grade levels. The document you see posted before you really gives you a diagram of the vertical alignment of each of these texts and what they represent at each grade level. This document is posted in Eduphoria under District Resources. I encourage you to open this document and really take a look at this alignment piece. How does a skill move from kindergarten through 4th grade, through 5th grade? How does it change and adjust? Every grade level has a little bit different perspective on these texts as they're offered. Beside this document, you will see a photograph of an activity that was offered this summer during the literacy academies offered by Region 11 for the members of our district. This activity took each of our strands of text and divided them into about 12 categories. When we really began to look at those texts that we are responsible for teaching, it was really inspirational in the fact that when we really looked at how they were organized, comprehension by far was more weighted than any other strand. And so I challenge you this year to really put that concept into your daily teaching. Beside the text, what are the other non-negotiables in BISD? The second non-negotiable in BISD is to use the curriculum documents available in Eduphoria. In Eduphoria, you will find a scope and sequence which outlines the skills required at each 6 weeks. During the spring of 2013, a group of women came together to really look at how our alignment worked vertically and horizontally. Looking at our data from both iStation ISIP and looking at our previous STAR data, we looked for those areas in which we felt there was a need to really support previous grade levels and really backload the work for the ongoing grade levels. We found that there were some holes that existed in order to support the work that needs to be done at each grade level. You will find this year, as you look at the scope and sequence, several changes. For example, poetry has been added in more prolifically. Looking at the recently STAR release test, you will find that poetry was included in almost every grade level. This is an area of need for our district. And we'll continue to have those conversations. Third, the non-negotiable. District guidelines for initiatives, PLCs, planning for learning, the literacy framework, embedding small group instruction in the form of guided reading in your classroom. Again, the three non-negotiables: the text, the use of the curriculum documents housed in Eduphoria, and district guidelines for initiatives in the district. Turn to your neighbor and re-explain the message you just received. What is Tier 1 instruction? This is really the focus of this presentation today. Tier 1 instruction and the literacy framework. Tier 1 instruction includes all students. It meets the needs of 80 to 85% of our students. It provides high quality, explicit, evidence-based instruction, and it utilizes evidence-based structures and strategies. When we think about our routine in the day, every child receives Tier 1 instruction. When we think about response to intervention, what is response to intervention? How is it defined? What is RTI? Why do we continue to have this conversation about Tier 1 instruction? Response to intervention is the practice of providing high-quality instruction and intervention matched to students' needs. Progress is closely monitored, and changes in instruction are based on data collected from ongoing assessment. RTI represents an educational strategy to close achievement gaps for all students. By preventing smaller learning problems and becoming insurmountable gaps. The Tier 1 instruction pyramid should look something like this. 80 to 85 of our students move to a point of mastery with just Tier 1 instruction. It might take 15 to 20% of our students receiving additional instruction through Tier 2 support. And then if you really look at Tier 3, it should be less than 5%, 5 to 8% perhaps, that would need and receive intensive additional instruction to meet the grade level requirements for each of our students. In BISD, our pyramid has not looked much like this. This is the recommendation designed by David Holland to give you a visual of what the recommended apportionment would look like for all of our students. In BISD, following our ISIP assessment in January, our pyramid looks something like this. This is the reason why we have the literacy framework, is to try to move our design in this district from the visual on the right back to the visual on the left. The only way to make this happen in our district is to improve the quality, the rigor, and the in-depth instruction through explicit instruction in Tier 1. This is a model provided by continuous improvement. Continuous improvement basics are really monitoring processes and performance and standardizing the standardization of effective practices, hence the literacy framework. Monitoring processes and performance means making in-flight adjustments. Let me explain that. As we're moving through the scope and sequence and we're moving through the alignment as designed by treasurers, there may come a time when you look at the needs of your classroom and you make those professional decisions to make an adjustment about the pace and delivery of instruction. That's your job as it's designed. You have the professional knowledge to meet the needs of the students in your classroom. It's planning strategically. Hence, we have PLCs and the idea of planning for learning. It is the standardization of effective practice, researching, trying out, evaluating approaches, capturing effective processes and procedures, and setting expectations for implementation and monitoring those implementation pieces. This is the model for continuous improvement. And we in this district are in a situation where we need to make sure that we are continually improving the outcome of our students based on state standards, based on state assessments, and based on nationally norm assessments like ISEP. I would like for you to think about literacy. Thinking about headlines, remember one of our visible thinking strategies. What will the headlines say for BISD in 2013-2014? I'd like for you to really think about your classroom making those headlines, and what might the headlines say for your classroom this year. Turn to your neighbor, and I'd like for you to take a 2-minute time to really have that conversation. Presenters, pause please. Great. I hope you're sharing some of those headlines across. Presenters, if we'll continue at this point. BISD Literacy Framework. This is really why we're here today, for you to have an opportunity to start to analyze and look at the pieces and components embedded in this framework. This framework was developed in conjunction with the 2012-2013 Reading Council. The council was put together at Dr. Clark's request. We had members from your campuses, teachers. We had district administrators from several of your campuses. We had special education teachers. We had bilingual ESL teachers. We had classroom teachers. We had district leadership members on this council. This process took a year. This information will be shared in a variety of ways across the district. This document is about 90 pages long. It is inconceivable to think that we could do justice to this document in an hour and 10 minutes today. My goal for you today is to have a bit of an understanding of several pieces of this document that I hope you will find useful. The response to this document has been positive, and the feedback has been positive from the teachers. So let's take a look inside about the district expectations within this document. The philosophy of reading instruction. Teachers model and share their processes with students. Within the context of a workshop framework, teachers scaffold students' reading processes by sharing their own thoughts and processes. Direct and explicit instruction is provided through whole group, small group, and individual instruction designed to address student-specific needs. Students must receive guidance in the 5 components of reading to scaffold the growth of a skilled reader. Students read every day in self-selected texts representing a wide range of genres and topics and participate in discussion of these texts. They engage in regular self-assessment and reflection on their growth as readers. Reading teachers must be readers themselves. Teachers who accept the responsibility for teaching children to read must understand that it includes an ongoing commitment to continually search for the most effective ways to help children gain competence in this very important skill of reading. Balanced literacy is a comprehensive, differentiated approach to reading and writing instruction. It is based on a block model of time segments that is designed to help all students learn to read and write effectively. Assessment-based planning is at the core of this model. The balanced literacy approach is characterized by explicit skill instruction and the use of authentic text. Through various organizational structures, and we'll come back to that in a moment, The teacher implements a well-planned, comprehensive literacy approach that reflects a gradual release of control, whereby responsibility is gradually shifted from the teacher to the students. Balanced literacy is implemented through reading and writing workshop model. That simply means the teacher begins by modeling the reading-writing strategy that is the focus of that workshop. Subsequently, students are engaged in practicing the focal strategy in small, guided groups or independently as the teacher monitors and provides guidance. Selected students share their work. Then, students read level text independently or write independently for extended periods of time as the teacher observes, records observations, and confers. At the close of the literacy blocks of reading and writing, students reflect on their learning by discussing how they applied a skill or a process, sharing their experiences, or think about their own growth. Direct instruction in phonics and word study is also included in the balanced literacy approach. For emergent and early readers, the teacher plans and implements a focused lesson. After the teacher explicitly teaches a phonemic or phonics skill, students practice reading and/or writing other words for the same word pattern. For advanced readers, the teacher focuses on the etymology of a word, and students who are reading at this stage are engaged in analyzing the patterns of word derivations, root words, prefixes, and suffixes. Guided reading is implemented during the independent reading block. Based on the assessment, the teacher works with small groups of students on a level text through a variety of resources, including but not limited to the current basal adoption treasures or thesaurus. The teacher models specific strategies before reading and monitors students while they read independently. After reading, the teacher and students engage in activities in word study, fluency, and comprehension. The purpose of guided reading is systematically to scaffold the decoding and/or comprehension strategies of students who are having similar challenges. Direct instruction in phonics and word study is also included in this literacy approach. Here you see a diagram of what that might look like. This diagram is embedded in the literacy framework. The underlying goal of all ELAR, SLAR instruction is to guide students to independent mastery of a skill or a concept. Again, the underlying goal. The gradual release of responsibility model of instruction has been documented as an effective approach for improving reading comprehension, writing achievement, and literacy outcomes for all students. This model has been embedded in the literacy framework. This instructional model emphasizes instruction that mentors students into becoming capable thinkers and learners. To scaffold independence, teachers would begin with high support and very explicit instruction activities, and then release students to low support and more independent activities. This gradual release, depending on the age of the student and the needs of your classroom, may occur over a day, a week, several weeks, or a semester. We have to then begin to look at what are the components of good reading instruction. This summer, during the Literacy Academy, all 5 components of good reading instruction were covered. We will continue to cover each of these. Each of these components in this pyramid represent a piece of instructional focus for the classroom teacher. As a district, we have moved to PLCs to really unload and unpack that piece of instruction based on your text. It is a district initiative, and I want you to think about where you are on that continuum of learning and where is your campus on this journey. This is an important part of understanding and planning for learning and designing your instruction for the needs of your students. Take a moment, turn to a neighbor, and let's think about this continuum of learning and where you might be. I would like for you to take 2 minutes and have this discussion with a shoulder partner. Let's move to another strategy. What makes you say that? The steps in what makes you say that looks for moments when students give explanations or offer opinions. Push for elaboration and evidence by asking, what makes you say that? And then share your thinking. Let's use this strategy as we revisit your discussion on PLCs. When I asked you, where are you on the learning continuum, what did you say? And I would challenge you to think about, well, what makes you say that? Really looking for that evidence. What evidence do you have to support your thinking? If you'd turn to a neighbor and share your thoughts. Please pause, presenters. Okay, if I can bring everyone back, what makes you say that? So really thinking about where you are as a learner, where your campus is in the model of PLCs. This summer at the close of school, we had a wonderful opportunity to have a hybrid conference on PLCs. As a district, we are really moving forward with this initiative. Part of that process really becomes on the teacher's part to plan for learning. What does the planning for learning model look like? Let's take a look. When we look at this model as designed by David Holland and Dr. Clark, it is a flow of information and thoughtful processing. We really start with a curriculum. Then we go to a PLC. We have a common assessment to really determine where our students are. Then we always go back to a system of regrouping, reteaching, and then the process would begin again. We always start with a curriculum and the pieces that we have in place. So let's think about that. This model for planning for learning focuses on the necessary steps for developing an instructional unit. As always in your planning, you start with the standards and the district curriculum that is aligned to those standards. From there, your PLC meets to create a common assessment focused on how the students will show evidence of their learning. Now you are ready to begin designing lessons that will lead your students to that learning and equip them with all the necessary tools for demonstrating their learning effectively. Formative assessments will be used to monitor students through their learning cycle. Based on this data, along with teacher observations, PLCs can redesign, reteach, or regroup so that their students are ready for CFA's common formative assessment by the end of the lesson cycle. As always in your planning, you start with the standards. Moving from the standards into really delivering the instruction, we must look at best practices. Research shows that when children spend more time reading, they become better readers. Reading Workshop is an instructional model that provides illicit instruction in the 5 components of reading with opportunities for students to practice each reading strategy independently, with a peer, and in small groups. In 2000, the National Reading Panel compiled a report that identifies methods that consistently relate to reading success. The 5 essential components of effective reading instruction represent ingredients that must be present in order for students to learn to read. Effective teachers know how to blend these ingredients in the right proportions to meet the unique needs of each child. They understand the roles of phonemic awareness and phonics in building word recognition skills, and they know how to identify and correct students' weaknesses in these areas. They also know that these two foundational components will receive less emphasis as students gain competence as readers. Effective teachers know how fluency facilitates comprehension, and they know how to use research-based strategies for helping students become fluent readers. These teachers are continually building each student's vocabulary and the ability to learn the meanings of new words through a variety of word learning strategies. Finally, they know that comprehension is the ultimate goal of reading instruction, and they are adept at helping students learn to apply appropriate comprehension strategies as they read. The responsibility for teaching children to read is a commitment to continually search for more effective ways to help children gain competence in this very important skill. Reading Workshop emphasizes the importance of student engagement and the interaction between reader and text. It provides differentiated instruction in reading and involves students in authentic reading experiences that focus on their strengths and needs of each individual child. The purpose of this instructional model is to foster independence among readers and develop lifelong passionate readers. The instructional blocks of Reading Workshop are word work, focus lessons, guided reading, and reflection. During this time, the teacher models a reading skill and strategy during the focus lesson. This instructional block of Reading Workshop has been outlined in the literacy framework for you. I've had a lot of questions about what is the difference between Daily 5 and literacy workstations, which will be embedded in the framework. Here you see a chart of the differences. In Daily 5, there's 5 rotations. In literacy workstations, there's unlimited work for poetry, technology, vocabulary, drama, genre focus, etc. Students in Daily 5 make a choice. In literacy workstation, the teacher chooses. When we really look at Daily 5, when we really look at literacy workstations, or work with Debbie Dillard, what I will tell you is that these are structures and management tools. The district is not dictating the structure or management tool you use in your classroom. What we are saying is that you will address the 5 components of reading and that you will have small group work in the form of guided reading during your day. So let me answer that question one more time. No one is saying that you cannot do Daily 5. Daily 5 has great pieces. What we are saying is that you must address the 5 components of reading. And I'll be happy to continue having those discussions with you. There's a lot of rumors and misconceptions about what this framework really is about. It's about an instructional model for delivering instruction. One of the pieces that you are receiving today looks like this. It is our design for the reading framework. It addresses the minutes, it addresses the breakdown, and it reflects the gradual release of responsibility in which we hope you are organizing your instruction. Please take a look at the card provided for you. This summer, through the literacy academies, we have worked very hard to provide professional knowledge for our teachers that is consistent across the district, so that when we reference small group, when we reference guided reading, we all begin to have the same understanding and the same professional vocabulary. The literacy academies will be provided 2 summers in a row, this summer and next summer, so that we may offer this training to every teacher across the district. One of the pieces that we're going to make available is a piece about explicit instruction and what that may look like in your classroom. This summer that was addressed during the literacy academies. Another piece that we have provided is really taking the mystery out of guided reading. Guided reading is a key component in the reading workshop model of literacy instruction. Guided reading sessions involve a teacher and a small group, ideally 2 to 4 children, although groups of 5 or 6 are not uncommon. The session would have a set of objectives to be taught during a session lasting approximately 15 to 20 minutes. While guided reading takes place with one group of children, the remaining children are engaged in quality independent or group literacy tasks, with the aim of allowing the teacher to focus on the small group without interruption, which is sometimes very difficult to manage. Guided reading is usually a daily activity. Each guiding reading group meets with a teacher several times throughout a given week, depending on the needs of the students. The children are typically grouped by academic ability, reading level, and or strategic and skill-based needs. Within the literacy framework, you're also going to be given a writing framework with instruction delivered through the writing workshop model. You have on the back of your card, you should see this organizational structure for your classroom. All right, what I'd like for you to do now is turn to your neighbor and talk about what did you hear, what did you think about what you heard, and how this will impact you in your classroom. Presenters, if you will pause for 2 minutes. Presenters, if you will continue at this point. Presenters, I'd like for you to play this YouTube clip. An ending thought for this presentation. What did you think? I'd like to end the presentation with this thought. You must love this profession to meet the demands of this work, and it is indeed work. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. And I hope that this presentation has been helpful, reassuring, and guiding in the way we are delivering reading instruction. Jennifer Miller and I will be coming out to every campus to do an overview with you of the literacy framework. Following today's presentation, this document will be posted within Eduphoria so that every teacher has electronic access. 6 printed copies of this first generation of this document will be provided, 1 per grade level at your campus. 2 administrative copies have been provided for both your principal and your assistant principal at each campus. My extension is 5680. This document is to help guide our district to a point of more rigorous instruction so that we can improve the quality of Tier 1 instruction. Thank you for your attention today, and thank you for all that you will do in the year 13-14 for each of our students in meeting the demands placed upon you by the text. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day.